Hey guys, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Flash Season 6 review series, and today I'm going to be talking about episode 13, Grodd Friended Me, and this episode was very good. It was really good to see Grodd back, and we hadn't seen him in quite a while. In fact, the last time that we saw Gorilla Grodd was back in Season 5, where he faced King Shark in a epic fight which rivaled, in my opinion, Hulk versus Abomination, and that was a really good episode. And he made a brief cameo in Legends of Tomorrow where he worked with Damien Dark, but overall it's been a while since we've seen Gorilla Grodd, and each time we see him, his appearances are very different in terms of the situation we find him in, and this one was no different. This was a very different Grodd episode to the ones we've seen in the past. In past Grodd appearances, we've seen him take control of people's minds to get them to do their bidding. We've even taken a trip to Gorilla City, which was back in Season 2, which was a really good episode. I think that was a two-parter. So each Grodd appearance, as I've said already, is very, very different. So we find ourselves in new territory with Grodd, and it's very interesting to learn what Grodd's been up to since the events of Crisis and during the post-Crisis era, so to speak. So, with that all said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about episode 13, Grodd Friended Me. So we see Barry solemnly walking through Central City with a bouquet of roses, but he gets a metahuman alert. Camilla and Chester both offer to help Barry, but he decides to work this one alone. Barry follows the alert to a diamond store where Hartley Rathaway, aka the Pied Piper, is trying to rob them. Hartley still feels betrayed by Team Flash, but something that clearly has happened as a result of the crisis. Barry gets frustrated by everything he doesn't know about Crisis and asks Gideon to figure out all of the changes. So, with the villains, just like I've said in previous videos, a lot of the villains don't really remember the events of the Crisis, so they've had their lives essentially rebooted, and any memories they've had of the Flash or Flash's friends plays out very differently to what we've seen in previous seasons. Chester and Camilla come in, and Chester quickly learns that Barry is the Flash. Barry is hesitant to let Chester, who tries to make a modification to his comms, join the team, and reveals to Camilla that he can't find his parents' graves in Central City. Barry tries to test his tech, but it accidentally makes him pass out, and he wakes up in a cage in an unknown lab. The cage is courtesy of Wellsbard, who, alongside Caitlin, is preparing for the particle accelerator. Barry soon realises that he's gone into the mind of Grodd, who is still trapped in a mental coma in Argos prison. Grodd reveals that he wants Barry to understand what it's like when his powers are taken away, and he's used his time in prison to start to atone for his crimes. Grodd asks Flash to trust him because he needs his help in fighting the Gatekeeper. Barry punches Grodd out instead and tries to escape through a portal in the forest, but Solovar, the Gatekeeper, stands in his way. Chester tells Frost he wants to impress Barry just as they find him passed out in the present day. They hook Barry up to technology that proves that someone is inside his brain and try to reach him. Barry begins to convulse in the real world during his fight with Solovar, which causes Frost to realise that Barry is connected to Grodd. Frost realises that Barry will die sooner than later because of Grodd's telepathic crown. Chester realises that his accidents puts Barry in danger, in part because he has experience with being told that he doesn't deserve a second chance. Frost tells him she's going to give him a second chance. Grodd comes to Barry as a projection of Joe and reveals that he knows of the changes made due to the post-crisis. Grodd asks Barry for his help to help him get back to Gorilla City so he can happily live among his own kind. Barry realises that they need to try something new and forget the past to fight Solovar together. So this was quite an interesting and very unique team. We see the Flash and Gorilla Grodd actually working together. Very cool, if I do say so myself. Barry and Grodd merge their minds together, temporarily giving Grodd the Flash's super speed. Can you imagine Gorilla Grodd with super speed? Yeah, scary, isn't it? Barry tells Team Flash what's happening, and Frost realises that if they don't separate their minds by the time they escape, they're both going to die. Chester suggests a way to potentially save Grodd and Barry tells Chester that he believes in him. In the Mindscape, Barry instructs Grodd in how to use his powers against Solovar, and he ultimately succeeds. Barry wakes up in the real world, no longer connected to Grodd. Barry tells Argos, who agree to let Grodd out on probation to Gorilla City as long as they can track him. Camilla gets a call that Cisco is coming back. Barry apologises to Chester for how he acted before. Chester reveals he was able to find Barry's parents' graves. The comms get a signal from Pied Piper, and Barry asks Chester to help. Also in this episode, we see the mirror version of Iris meet with Joe at CCPD and asks him for confidential info on Black Hole and Carver. Joe tells her no, which leads to her getting very upset. While Joe is out of his office, Mirror Iris sneaks in and gets the information. Meanwhile, in the Mirrorverse, behind the mirror, Iris asks Eva if she can potentially build a machine to get them out of the dimension that they're trapped in. Eva decides to be brave because of Iris's example. Once it comes time to use the machine, Eva panics and shows Iris that the machine won't work. It will open a portal, but the person walking through will get burned. Eva explains that she wanted to prove the machine didn't work because otherwise Iris wouldn't trust her. She convinces Iris to leave the room and uses the mirror again, revealing Mirror Iris, who also has the burns on her arms. Eva says that she's buying them both time and then heals the burns on Mirror Iris's arms. Nash asks Allegra to help him with a machine that will track particles from another dimension. Allegra asks Nash why he acts like she's known her forever, but he avoids the question. He then sees a vision of the French Wells, which is Sherlock Wells, in his field of view. They try to turn on the machine, but it fails, and Nash's picture of himself and the alternate version of Allegra falls out. And Allegra sees the picture and gets upset. Nash goes to Frost for advice on the situation, and she tells him to just talk to Allegra. Nash goes to do so, but is confronted by another version of Wells, seemingly Wells Bard. And for those of you who don't know Wells Bard, that's Eobard Thawne. Eobard Thawne is trying to make a comeback and take over Nash's Wells' body. And that's how this episode ends, and it's very chilling. Overall, very good episode. Much better than the last few. Even though I did say the last couple were okay, but this one really turned it around and I really enjoyed it a lot. And it was really cool to see Grodd and the Flash working together, and even seeing the Grodd with super speed, so that was a lot of fun. And seeing the hint of the Reverse Flash making his possible return. It's always good to see the Reverse Flash, and you know, Tom Cavanagh, as great an actor as he is, and he really is, he's at his absolute best when he's playing the Reverse Flash, and it never gets boring when he's playing a villain, and it's always cool to watch. So I'm going to wrap this up now, and I'm going to leave this here for you guys. What did you think of episode 13? Did you think it was good? What's your thoughts on Grodd redeeming himself and working with the Flash? Do you think he's seen the error of his ways, or do you think he'll come back as a villain next time? How do you think Eobard Thawne will return? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will be back next time for another edition of the Season 6 review series, where I'll be talking about episode 14, which we see the return of a very old friend of ours who we haven't seen for quite a while, and I'll give you one little clue. The last time we saw this guy, he was with Legends of Tomorrow, so it's going to be very interesting to see what this character has been up to. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe.